Welcome to the Can Innovate podcast, the first ever podcast designed to showcase Canadian thought leadership. These innovators share industry insights, entrepreneurial best practices, lessons learned, and other tips that we can incorporate right into our lives, our careers, and our businesses. So let's get inspired. This week we've got Ariel Garten on the show today. She is a neuroscientist, an innovator, a mother, and an entrepreneur whose driving purpose is to empower and help others overcome mental obstacles in order to live a healthy, happier lives and reach their maximum potential. Ariel is the founder of InteraXon, the makers of Muse, the brain sensing headband. This is like such a fabulous type of technology. Her team's technology has been featured in over 1,000 media pieces, as well as featured in a showcase at the Vancouver 2010 Olympics, an installation that allowed over 7,000 people to control the lights on the CN Tower, the Canadian Parliament buildings, and Niagara Falls with the brains from across the country. This is really, really amazing stuff. And honestly, I am such addicted to it. It's really helping us with our health and well-being. And they have just announced that they have just gone international. So this is going to be a big, huge Canadian global brand. We cannot be any more happier for Ariel and her team. And in fact, all Can Innovate listeners, Ariel is offering a 15% discount if you put in the code. So I would put that in the show notes so you can take advantage of it. It is fantastic. You can definitely be able to have the tools to become your best selves ever. Ariel, I'm so honored that you managed to squeeze in some time for us. But I have to start off with, I hear that you've got a podcast that's about to come out shortly. So tell me, what's the name of it and what's it all about?
Sure. Hi, Sapna. It's amazing to be here. My podcast is called Inside the Head of, and every week we get inside the head of neuroscientists, psychotherapists, those skilled in the mental arts, and we learn both from their cutting-edge experience and their, personal life living, what goes on in our brains and how to optimize the crazy that's in all of our minds.
I love that. Optimize the crazy in all of our minds. That is just the perfect title.
Thank you.
I am so excited. So I actually am I've been reading about Muse for quite some time, and that's why I was like, I gotta reach out to her. I gotta find out more. Got her on the podcast because what you're doing with Muse is so cool and so different. So first of all, for our listeners out there, can you tell us what exactly is Muse?
Sure. Muse is a brain sensing headband that helps you meditate. So it's a little device that slips on your head and it tracks your brain activity in real time, and it lets you know when you're in focused attention and when your mind is wandering. And it does that by translating your brain activity into sound. So you can actually hear the sound of your mind while you meditate. And the metaphor we use is your mind is like the weather. So when you're thinking, distracted, your brain's bouncing all over the place, you actually hear it as windy. And as you bring yourself to quiet, focused attention, it then quiets the sound of the wind. So you literally have a soundtrack to your own mind while you meditate.
A soundtrack to your own mind. Oh my gosh, but I might actually start using your Muse headband just for at work. Just when I'm going crazy, just that, I'm like, okay, time to silence my inner voice.
You got it. We actually have lots of people that use it at work.
Do they?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. That's crazy. How did this all come about? Where did you get this crazy idea? It's amazing.
Thank you. So my own background is neuroscience and psychotherapy and art and design. And so this was really a confluence of all of those factors. I worked in on an early brain-computer interface system with Dr. Steve Mann. He's a professor at the University of Toronto who had an early brain-computer interface. And he and his master's student, Chris Amony, and I started to create concerts where you could literally make music with your mind. We would take your brain activity and translate it into sound. And then we stood back and said, oh my God, we're like literally engaging with the world directly with our brain. We need to bring this to market. We need to do something with this. And so we formed InteraXon, our company, with me, Chris, and a third co-founder, Trevor. And the three of us over the last decade have been building brain-computer interfaces, and now this beautiful device that teaches you how to meditate by actually showing you what goes on in your brain.
And I hear that this is like being used by so many different groups of people. I mean, obviously end user consumers, but health practitioners, athletes, like universities and hospitals, like, that's crazy. Like Harvard, NASA, University of Toronto, Mayo Clinic. Is that kind of all those different types of groups that are using it, or how are they using it?
So yeah, it's being used literally across the board. So the average consumer can go and, not that any of us are average, can go and pick one up in Best Buy in Canada or online in Best Buy in the States or in Target. So it's really mass market. And then we also have thousands of clinicians, psychotherapists, psychiatrists, life coaches, meditation teachers who use Muse in their practice. So in the past, when your therapist would say, you should meditate, they can now hand you a Muse. And then we also have healthcare institutions. Mayo Clinic's been running a really big study using Muse over the last few years, demonstrating improvements in breast cancer treatment and reduction in stress by using the device. We have tons of researchers that use it, like NASA and Harvard. So it's been, extremely broadly adopted, like far beyond our expectation.
And so fast, too, because, this is only 2018, June, and you've been doing this for what, since 2015 or...
Yeah, Muse, the device as it is now, came to market right at the end of 2014. We hit 2014 Christmas as our first launch.
Oh, I love this. I'm a huge fan of this, and especially because it's crazy. All the other podcast guests we talk about, productivity habits and what they do and stuff like that. And almost about 75% of our guests, because running a startup or running a business or doing all these things, they always say that they find some time to meditate. And whether they're hiding in a phone booth inside of WeWork or whatever it is, they're finding time for that self-care, love, and adoption, and just finding some time just to kind of quiet the mind, whether they're using apps and different things. So this is a huge area. And it's just neat that there's so many healthcare providers that are, gravitating towards this. This is like crazy.
We really noticed a need. We recognized that meditation, So we went out to create a startup around this technology, and we said, what's the best possible use of this tech? And for us, it was to help people meditate. Meditation is such a tremendous need, and when you do it, there's such a great benefit. But frankly, it can be really hard to do. So you sit there and you're like, I'm going to meditate now, and your brain bounces all over the place. And after about 45 seconds, you're like, I'm not good at meditation. This really sucks. I need to get up and do something else now. So we wanted to build a device that would really show you what was going on in your own mind and kind of hold your hand through the process and keep you there and keep you engaged. And then once you had a practice, actually help you structure it so that you could go back day after day and you get points and scores, and there's gamification that really keeps you engaged in the process and moving it forward. So it's like the perfect tool to get you meditating. And if you're already meditating, keep you meditating and actually make you make that space for it.
It's really cool because honestly, I've heard a lot of people ask the question, like, how do I meditate? And what does meditation really mean? And there's so much confusion about it. So this really kind of helps them with that learning curve and being able to understand. I love how you said it's kind of the soundtrack to your mind, your inner voice. So this is really neat.
Thank you so much.
So you've got all these different groups that are using it. So what's that excites you most about this industry of how it's shape shifting? With your neuroscience background, art and design, and everything else.
So we're at an incredible moment for neurotechnology. So everybody keeps saying, the decade of the brain is almost here. And we're at the point where we really can have real interaction with our own minds. And sort of the brain is the final frontier. If we can crack the code on the brain, if we can understand what goes on inside of our heads and use that information more effectively to optimize our lives, optimize our productivity, optimize our thinking processes, there's, massive opportunity there. So we feel like we're on the frontier of this sense of self-discovery, discovery of the mind and discovery of other aspects about the self, taking invisible processes and making them visible.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So what's next on the frontier for Muse? Are you going to guys go global, or are you already going global?
So actually, we just went global. That's a great question. We just launched in Europe in German, French, Spanish, and Italian. Next, we're moving into Japanese. So now you can buy Muse literally across Europe and in the UK. So it also means expansion into Latin America for us. We already have lots of therapists in Latin America using it, reaching out, saying, please, can you help me expand in this direction, this direction? So it's been unbelievable to watch the explosion from a little device that we only hoped was going to help people to actually see it, percolating its way and really exploding its way across the world.
Oh, I love it. Because I've also seen it. That's also been on Wall Street Journal, featured on CNN, Toronto Star, CBS this morning. So it's like, it is becoming quite the movement that's quite happening out there. Plus, I get to look like Wonder Woman. I was just going to say that's an added benefit.
Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And have the power of Wonder Woman. Far better than just looking like her.
For sure. Because it's actually a really sexy looking band. Like, it doesn't look tacky at all. Like, it's actually really cool looking.
Thank you. So that's the fashion background coming to life. We wanted to make a piece of technology that wasn't going to look like a piece of technology, something that was really going to fit into your natural process, enhance your daily life, and feel really normal and comfortable to wear. So for us, it's always the mixture between technology that's, extremely cutting edge and this human part, something that looks really, casual and comfortable, something that fits into yourself. The soundtrack that literally is the sound of your own mind, these really human experiences within a technological framework.
Oh, I love it. And I understand like there's also cool things like you can have different sound features as well, of like the beach and the rainforest as well. You get to program what you want.
Totally. So there's 5 different soundscapes. You can really customize it to your own experience. So you can hear your mind like you're in the rainforest. And as your mind is going crazy, the rains are getting louder and louder and the jungle sounds are going around you. And as you get really quiet, the rain's quiet. And then we have a feature called birds. So if you're able to maintain your focused attention for several seconds, a little bird starts to tweet next to you. And that in a way becomes your way to also undermine the game-directed nature of it. So the little bird starts tweeting, you're like, oh my God, I got a bird, so exciting, and then it flies away. So you learn both not to get caught up in the times when you're not doing it well and the sound is very crazy. You learn to just not have judgment about that. And you learn also to not get too invested in your rewards, and to really come to that state of equanimity that we so search for in meditation.
So that's something interesting, like you got milestone and reward. So how does that work?
So we have this beautiful motivational architecture. And as you muse, the longer you do it and the more you're able to bring your brain back. We call it a recovery. In a meditation practice, your mind wanders. Your job is to notice that it's wandered and then to bring it back. So every time you're able to notice it wanders and bring it back, we call it a recovery. And you get points for that. And then as you're able to stay in a calmer and calmer mind, you get more and more points. So the longer you're able to meditate and maintain the state, the more points you get, and then you'll get badges and awards and milestones, and there's challenges and levels, all intended to first provide an extrinsic reward for you to be there until you actually start feeling the rewards of your meditation practice, and then the gamification kind of melts away, and it's about you in your practice and doing it every day and feeling the benefit in your life.
It's amazing because earlier on we had a podcast with, her name is Lauren, the Learning Pirate, and she's also got a background in neuroscience. I'll definitely hook the two of you up. But one of the things that she talked about really was about, she never believed into meditation until she started understanding about neuroscience, about how her brain works. And she was saying that it's really important for your brain to slow down in order for it to speed up. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So if you want a little 30 seconds of your brain on meditation, meditation A increases the thickness of your prefrontal cortex. So your prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain responsible for your attention and for choosing what to do, for organizing, for planning your day. So as we age, our prefrontal cortex thins, but good news, as you're able to maintain a long-term meditation practice, you actually build your prefrontal cortex. You build the muscle of your attention. Meditation also downregulates your amygdala, that's your fight or flight response, so that you end up being not as reactive to the world around you. Meditation also has been demonstrated to decrease your default mode network. So default mode network is that little voice that keeps chattering inside your head when there's, nothing going on. There's just that chatter. So meditation actually downregulates that network, that system, to quiet it. And then from an EEG perspective, a really fascinating thing happens. So as you decrease your brainwave frequency, so when we're thinking and our brains are buzzing, you're up in beta, you're up in a higher brainwave frequency. As you start to meditate, you drop into lower frequencies, down into alpha or even theta or delta, but primarily the first drop you see is into alpha. And what alpha does, this lower frequency, actually allows you to be more efficient in your processing, or demonstrates times in which you're efficient in your processing. So if you look at a sports professional who has done the same move every time, like a baseball player swinging a bat and hitting, his home run, when he swings his bat well and hits the ball well, he's going to have high alpha activity. He's not thinking when that's happening. That is a process that's been learned inside of him and is now going fully efficiently through him. He's not thinking about it. This is not a beta process.
Mm.
So we have a researcher out at UVic, Olav Kringleson, and he looked at baseball players before they had their perfect hit. And he used Muse not as a meditation tool, but actually as a clinical grade EEG to put it on the head of a baseball player and watch what happens when they hit a ball. And what he noticed is that when somebody was doing well hitting their ball, they actually had an increase in their alpha activity. So their brain was actually slowing down at that time. So when you're hitting that perfect pitch or that perfect dive or whatever it is that you've practiced 1,000 times over, you're not in a beta state. You're not thinking. You're not processing it. You're down in an alpha state. You're down in this automatic movement that you've done before that's highly efficient. And then we just had another study that came out from an Italian group that demonstrates people who Muse, specifically using Muse versus using another meditation application.
So tell me more about the study, because this is really fascinating stuff.
So we just had a study with an Italian group out of an Italian university demonstrating that people who use Muse actually see an efficiency in their processing, as demonstrated by the Stroop task. They taught 2 groups how to meditate. One, just a standard focused attention practice, focus your attention on your breath, mind wanders, bring it back. And the other group, they taught the same thing, but they used Muse while they were meditating. And then they gave each group a cognitive task called the Stroop task. In the Stroop task, you see a word in a different color. So you might see the word red, but in the color blue. Or you might see the word green in the color yellow. And it's your job to say, what is the font color? So this is a very difficult thing for people to do because you're getting conflicting information. It turns out the group that had been using Muse actually saw improvements in the Stroop task. So if you use Muse, you're able to see this conflicting information and potentially process it more effectively. They got a faster result telling them what color the font was. And this is actually a result we've now seen 3 times. Baycrest did a study with Muse and they saw a 50 millisecond increase in the Stroop task. We had a third group that did it. So over and over, we're seeing this idea of increased efficiency of processing.
This is so fascinating. Oh my God. I'm just thinking about how much you're proving that it speeds up your brain and it makes you more efficient. Because there's all these autoimmune conditions and there's all this talk about foggy brain and all these other types of things that are happening out there. You look at how many people are saying that they suffer from insomnia and they can't sleep throughout the night and everything else. And they've tried all these different things. So this can really help all those pieces.
Potentially. We don't make any medical claims.
Yeah, fair enough,
these are
enough.
pilot studies, but directionally the data looks really good. And then from a scientific perspective, when you're looking at something like autoimmune conditions, there's a theory around the amygdala for those. And this is work that comes out of Annie Hopper. She's also in BC. And the theory, she has a program called DNRS. And the theory there is that autoimmune conditions are due to the amygdala hyperreacting. So whenever you see a stimulus in your environment that other people consider to be neutral, your amygdala is going like, this is dangerous. Let's send an inflammatory response. And so you end up with hyperinflammation in your body, i.e. an autoimmune condition. Oh. So, calming down, down-regulating your amygdala, teaching yourself to relax, putting distance between yourself and the stimuli that triggers you, all of the things that meditation does is key for many of the things that ail us. They actually say that 60 to 90% of all doctor's visits are due to stress-related illness. Like most of the stuff that brings us down can be managed effectively with lifestyle management, exercise, diet, stress reduction, meditation.
I am absolutely a fan. I'm now going to be a huge junkie of this, and I know what I'm going to buy everyone for. I was going to say Christmas gifts, but being that we're talking at the end of June, that's in 6 months, I'm probably going to buy everyone gifts very shortly that I think that need it because everyone is so stressed. There's so much going on. And, and with all the different apps and the notifications, like you're kind of pushed to do more, and faster and faster and faster response time. People are collapsing and, there's a lot more depression out there. There's a lot more, sadness. And, this is kind of really a really cool tool.
Thank you. So, when we looked at it in the landscape and it's like, how can we help the world most effectively? This was our answer. So it's amazing to see that it's actually helping and it's actually working. It's really doing good.
That's just so cool. That is so cool. Well, I'm so proud that you guys are actually expanding internationally, and an amazing Canadian brand out there that is really changing the whole conversation and dynamic of things. So I am so honored to actually have now met you and be able to feature you.
Awesome.
Yay.
Fantastic to be your friend.
Done. Well, you definitely know I'm going to come. Now that I know where your office is located, you know I'm coming by for sure. For sure. So tell me something. When you were doing all this stuff, because we've got a lot of entrepreneurs that actually join and are listeners and audiences, and we like to give them some advice. Is there kind of a lesson learned that you have or something that was like an aha moment for you that you're like, wow, I wish I had known that, or you had heard it before? And then, you're like, okay, now I understand what someone was saying.
So I have a ton of lessons learned. We raised, I personally raised $18 million in venture cap without any background in economics. Mars taught me how to do it, and I went out on the street and I pitched. So the first lesson is do not be afraid. Do not be held back by the thoughts in your head that something's not going to work or it's not going to go right. We literally said, hey, I think we can, control computers with our mind, and the world needs to know about this, and set out to do that, and actually did it very effectively. And through twists and turns and changes to identify our right product market fit, ultimately did that and had an incredibly successful product. At any point along that path, we could have said, A, this is crazy. B, people are going to think we are crazy. C, we'll never find the money for it, or D, E, F, and G, and not done it. And it's incredibly important that if you can see something, you see that there is a possibility out there, that you don't let anything hold you back. That you don't let anything get in your way and say, oh, but just, stay in the comfortable place. One of my favorite phrases is your ability to sit with discomfort probably predicts your success in life. So if you're feeling like the place that you're in is a little bit uncomfortable, don't worry about it. Just push through and get to the other side. Don't run away. Just sit on that threshold of discomfort and push yourself over. Just gently get to the other side. Just be like, it's okay. This is going to work anyways. And very likely, if it's a great idea, it probably will. So be bold, be brave. And if you're feeling afraid, totally don't worry, but just push through it and get to the other side. Quiet the voices in your head that say this is not going to work, and find ways that it will, because if you have a good idea, it will.
Oh, I love that. That is so inspiring. I mean, to be fair, you're right. Like, just go push through it, and all you need is 5 seconds of courage, and then another 5 seconds, and then another 5 seconds. I love that. That is so inspiring. So tell me something. Can you share maybe a sales or marketing tip? I mean, you're globally scaling very fast, and so you must have some best practices that you could learn from.
So one good tip, make sure you're customer centric and test. Everybody out there probably already knows this, but you're selling somebody something because it's going to solve a problem in their life. So continue thinking about everything you do in terms of solving somebody else's problem. The problem is not how to put dollars in your pocketbook. The problem is how to deliver value to somebody else. And once you're delivering value, then the exchange for that value, somebody giving you money for it, is very easy because, of course, it's solving a problem. These days, you can be incredibly targeted in your advertising. We started in retail because we felt like we wanted to have a physical presence for it. People wanted to touch and feel and see the device. But more and more, we're moving to online. So don't be afraid to start an online-only business. Retail has a lot of weight to it and a lot of cost to it. So don't just think, okay, well, we have a startup and we're going to put it in Best Buy and there's 10,000, there's 1,000 Best Buys and we're going to move, one a month and therefore we're going to make this much money. That's very much an old way of thinking. So don't be afraid to think in terms of a purely online business and then expand into retail once you can really manage it and manage the costs associated with it.
Oh, that's amazing advice. Amazing advice. So is there any kind of do you have any a book or, besides your podcast, but do you have any book or YouTube video or anything like that, something that kind of resonated with you or inspired you? It could be fiction or nonfiction. Is there anything that kind of inspired you?
So I'm a neuroscience geek. So all of the stuff that inspires me is always the neuroscience content. The brain that changes itself. Those are the kinds of books that inspire me. And the link to business there is the notion that just like your brain is plastic, the way that you engage the world is plastic. The world is your sphere of opportunity. The world is your oyster to kind of craft and find your way and find the linkages. And that's really our job as entrepreneurs.
Oh, that's amazing. I think that is so fascinating. Really, really amazing. And I'm actually a bit of a tool junkie when it comes to apps and productivity tools because I'm always trying to utilize that. But now, instead of me asking this question, I already know what the new answer is going to be. It's going to be my Muse. That's going to be my new productivity tool because it's going to help me speed up my brain when I start using it. So, so this is exciting beyond belief.
Yeah, and we're actually seeing... we have a fun program that we've been bringing out to businesses who want to use Muse as a productivity tool. And we can come in and do challenges so that everybody in the office is musing. And then you can do challenges with one another between teams. Who's musing more? How many points has somebody gotten? You can put rewards on it. So you can actually get the entire office engaged in hacking their own productivity and their meditation.
Oh, that is so cool. I never even considered that. Oh my God, that would just make a totally different type of team meeting altogether.
Absolutely. We meditate at the beginning of our all team meetings. Meditation is just such an integral part of our culture. And once you're able to do that, you start to notice that people relate to themselves differently. So it's not just about productivity. It now starts to be about, listening to one another, taking the time, taking the space, having each other feeling heard, not being hyper reactive, not being overly dramatic. It really changes the culture.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love this. So being that you are busy doing all this stuff and you're globally expanding really quick, is there kind of a favorite Canadian hotspot or a restaurant or a place that you gravitate towards just to kind of, get in touch with other types of aspects of your life? Is there like a secret spot, a hiding spot that you have? Like lately mine has been Zavita Coffee Place. It's, I don't know what it is. It's the aroma of the coffee there, of the coffee beans. And I find that just kind of like inspires me again.
Okay, so my secret hiding space is actually outside of the city. And I recently went there. I went to Organics Farm. You can go strawberry picking. It's about 45 minutes away from downtown Toronto. You can get baskets filled with strawberries, and it's an amazing both meditative activity to be out in the field where everything is quiet. And if you're an entrepreneur who wants to get all the strawberries you can within 15 minutes, you can fill that effing basket as full as you'd like. Take it all. Take it all.
Oh, I love that. That is so cool. And finally, Ariel, you're so brilliant beyond belief. Our listeners are going to definitely want to connect with you. What's the best way to connect with you?
So connect with me on Facebook. Ariel Garten Muse is my Facebook profile. On Twitter, Ariel Garten. And then on Instagram, I'm Ariel's Musings.
I love that, Ariel's Musings. That's so brilliant.
And then, of course, check out the Muse website at choosemuse.com.
Oh, well, I've definitely choosing Muse forever. I'm a junkie now. You've converted me. That's for sure. Oh, you are so brilliant. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. What a total pleasure. And thanks for giving the opportunity to share about the brilliance and value of meditation. And thank you for having a Canadian innovation podcast. It is so exciting that we have enough innovations in Canada. And let me tell you, there have been a lot. We have an incredible innovation history, which I can get into if you want. There have been enough innovations in Canada for us to really come together and celebrate them. So thanks on behalf of all of us for celebrating us.
Oh, well, honestly, I get the best job ever because I get to learn from the brightest minds ever. So I feel like I'm the winner out of all of it. Oh,
Awesome.
You're such a pleasure. Oh, great. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in this week. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. And next week, I got another really fun episode. You'll be surprised at the topics we're going to cover. But anyways, in the meantime, you don't have to wait till next week to connect with us. You can connect with us always on all the different social media links. You can even send us a review. That's another great place to give feedback. And of course, our new newsletter that has tons of new golden nuggets and of course, discounts galore. Actually, our tools section of the website also have it. And please feel free to nominate another innovator out there. And I can't wait to talk to you next week.